Hello and welcome to the Media Center's Local Hero Awards series, in which we showcase 6 people from the Mid-Peninsula for outstanding achievement or contributions to the community. We solicited nominations and were especially looking for the unsung heroes. Each winner is an inspiration and each has a great story to tell. Rebuilding Together is a national organization with a mission of tapping volunteers to come together for one day each year to repair homes, revitalize communities, and rebuild lives. For almost 30 years, the Peninsula branch has provided renovations and repairs for the most vulnerable homeowners in our community: seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, and low-income families. It's the only local organization addressing this particular need. And this year, they completed 41 projects with the help of 1,600 volunteers. Bob Rosenberg has been a general contractor for over 40 years and founded his own very successful residential remodeling company. He's volunteered as a construction captain for Rebuilding Together for almost 20 years. Smiling. Bob, you did the 70s thing. You crossed the country from the East Coast to the West in search of adventure. One of the first things you did when you came out, as I understand it, was to become a volunteer firefighter. Tell me about that and how that plays into what you're doing now.
Well, when I came across the country, I ended up settling in San Francisco, where I met my wife, and moved to La Honda. And La Honda is a small town just west of the ocean, and it has a volunteer fire department. At the time, I wasn't working, and the first time I heard the alarm go off, I wondered what was that, and investigated and found out that they had a volunteer fire department. And I felt that that would be a great thing to do, and went down and signed up as a volunteer.
And what did you learn from that?
I learned that you could be a big impact in a small community, helping people that otherwise were a long distance away from any other help. And that our volunteer fire brigade, established in the mid-50s, was a very important thing for our community in particular.
So was that the spark that led you to community service, or the desire for community service?
I think so, because before that I had not really volunteered for much of anything, and I didn't have something that drew me to volunteering. And I was at that time just a few years out of college and had worked in an office and realized that wasn't for me. And so coming to this small community and seeing the dedication that the other firefighters had and the commitment to their neighbors was a real big influence in starting me on the path to volunteering.
Meanwhile, you had to have a real job.
Yes.
And you started out, I gather, literally in the trenches. Tell me about that.
I got a job with a general contractor as a laborer, and my first job was to excavate an 18 by 20 addition, a crawl space, for a job in Menlo Park, where they gave me a shovel, a wheelbarrow, a jackhammer, and a dump truck. And I would jackhammer the dirt, throw it in the wheelbarrow, wheel it to the dump truck, take it to the dumps, come back and start all over again. It was 3 days of very hard labor.
So that was literally like the quintessential backbreaking work.
Yes, it was.
What value was there in that you carry with you today?
Well, it showed me that I could do something that I really didn't especially like to do, but if I set my mind to it, I could accomplish it, and take pride in having done that myself. And that was a big part of my moving forward in the construction industry.
So you went in construction on your own and started your own company. After a while, you went back to or added on the volunteer element in your life. Why and how did that happen?
I actually was asked by another construction captain who had been doing it for a few years, that was also a general contractor. And unfortunately, he had to not be available for National Rebuilding Day, which was in about a week. And so he asked if I could help by taking over his role, and that was my first introduction to Rebuilding Together.
What was that like? Was it different from what you expected?
It was. Even though it was remodeling, it was very different from the type of projects that we did, and it was, I was sort of thrown in front of a group of volunteers and had to lead unskilled people, whereas I was used to working with skilled tradespeople, and try to accomplish this list of tasks that at first glance I thought was unattainable.
So why? Do you think that, is it unattainable?
Well,
are they asking a lot?
Yeah, it was asking a lot of a group of people that had no training with limited resources for a project that needed so much more. And just to, I was very unused to that. It was very different from my real job. And so having to wrap my mind around the fact that it's not going to be like my full-time job, but we need to accomplish a lot of work.
So you were thrown in at the last minute to a job with not enough resources, unskilled people, an unrealistic timeline, and yet you keep coming back. Why?
Well, after that week was over and the day was over, and I saw what we really could do with those limited resources and people, it was a real great satisfaction. And the homeowner, who was an older woman, a single woman that just had no ability to deal with the issues in her home that needed correction, some of the safety issues. She had a water heater in her kitchen. We moved outside. There were things that I saw that we could do that just sort of amazed me from the first time that I saw the project and thought that, oh, we cannot do enough or all of what we were hoping to do.
So what do you like best and least about your paid work and about your Rebuilding Together work as a contrast or comparison?
Well, I love my paid work. I love when I first was working with my hands and doing the work myself. I loved the feeling of accomplishment, of standing back at the end of the day or the end of the project and saying, I built this. And our projects were beautiful and they were elaborate, and it was very rewarding to see that project at the end. But the Rebuilding Together projects had a different kind of satisfaction. The Rebuilding Together projects were an opportunity to impact someone's life far more than my paid job. My paid jobs, my paid clients worked hard to get the money to hire me to do their beautiful jobs. The Rebuilding Together clients had no money, and to be able to impact their lives by doing quote, almost the same work was very impactful for me.
Have you ever seen some really significant safety issues addressed? Have you ever addressed them yourself?
Yes, in our Rebuilding Together projects, we see it all the time. We see water heaters without flues connected to where the carbon dioxide and flue gases can escape into the house, and carbon monoxide could and does kill people. Smoke alarms were almost, and still are almost non-existent in the homes that we work in. The mold and the debris and the sometimes filth that is accumulated in and around the house can be real safety and health issues. The air quality inside when you have mold everywhere is just can be very hard on people.
So this isn't just prettying up for the eyes and trimming around the edges.
It's rarely prettying up. It is fixing up and making manageable and correcting conditions that are sometimes hazardous and just sometimes hard to work around when you're living in the home. So you have a range with only one burner that works and no oven. You have a hood that to exhaust the fumes that doesn't work. You have shower doors that are broken and water leaks around the floor and just causes more damage. One of the jobs that we did had an addition on the back that was an illegal addition that the city of East Palo Alto made the client tear it down, so they had the whole back of their house exposed to the weather.
Wow.
And we needed to go in there, and that was a big project for us that year. Needed to do a lot of fixing there. We do a lot of roof repair and gutter repair that just eventually causes leaks and dry rot and, again, sometimes dangerous conditions.
Tell me about the clients.
The clients, they're all unique, but people are people, and people in need, whether they're wealthy or poor, still have needs. And the people that we work with in Rebuilding Together are very needy and almost always have a lot of pride. And I think it's hard for them to ask for help. And it's once they get past that, which is sort of out of my realm, but once they get past that, they realize that we are there to help. Some of them are a little concerned about a group of people coming into their homes, and it's a very invasive process, all remodeling. But the acceptance of us, the willingness of our group to help them, is a process that we go through with each client, and the reward at the end of seeing them just not beaming with pride, but beaming with satisfaction that this work has been done for them, and there was no way that they could have done it themselves. That's the real reward for me.
So is it safe to say that in general for them, their expectations tend to be exceeded?
Yes, and I would say hugely. I think that, same with the volunteers, I think that none of the people that when they start off their first volunteer or the first time that people are having work done at their home, even though they hear that we're going to fix the porch or we're going to build a new fence and a gate, or we're going to put a new floor in their kitchen. We're going to paint the interior. We're going to put some flooring in. They hear all this, but I think they don't realize the impact that the day, National Rebuilding Day, has when 40 plus people show up, a bunch of material, a bunch of unskilled people and skilled people, and an amazing transformation happens on each and every project, each and every year. And when they, at the end of the day, when they realize that, wow, all this stuff has been done, all these things have been fixed or cleaned up or painted, they find it hard to believe.
So is it safe to say that there's an interaction that goes on between the client and the volunteers that maybe was unexpected, or?
Yes, I think that happens as well. You know, every homeowner and every home is different, and some are more participatory than others. But I think the ones that really get into it, that really want to participate and help, really make a connection with, you know, at least some of the volunteers that they're working alongside. And I think that that experience for them and for the volunteers is unique for Rebuilding Together, because it's different than other volunteering opportunities.
Yeah, tell me how.
So if you, Second Harvest Food Bank is a great organization, and they feed a lot of people, and a lot of people go down to the warehouse and help box foods and do all those things. And that sort of happens every day, and you go down for a day and you feel good about having done some work for the day. The feeling that you get at the end of a day of Rebuilding Together is, you kind of like when I was building myself, you can stand back at the end of the day and say, I was part of this. And it's a feeling of accomplishment and a bigger impact on your day, what you did that day, that is different from other volunteering efforts.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Because it happens all in one day.
Right, yes.
Now, you've had some remarkable displays of gratitude. Tell me about a couple of those.
Well, probably the most memorable one was from a couple of years ago, actually from the same project that had the addition torn down on the back of their house. And so there was a lot of other work as well as fixing up the back of their house, but it was an older Mexican woman, and she was very helpful, and a lot of these clients also want to help, and so they say, what can we do? Can we help with the food, or can we buy some of the materials? And we always have to tell them, we don't have to, but we tell them, no, we're going to handle everything. This one woman, when the project was all over, I came back to just kind of say hello and see what it looked like at the end. And she gave me this beautiful blanket, a blue, 2 shades of blue blanket that she had started knitting the day that I met her when we came for the first interview, and it had finished just after her project was completed.
Wow.
And that, I have a picture of us sitting on the couch together with the blanket.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
Yeah, and that was probably my most memorable experience.
What about Rebuilding Together, the program in general, impresses you the most?
Well, I think that the program has a lot of working parts that are behind the scenes that go on all year in preparation for this one day. And the focus that is put forth by the organization to make all this happen and organize all these moving parts so that everything happens in one day is very impressive. Having my own construction business and knowing how much it takes to get a project done in 3 months gives me a different perspective in seeing all the work that's done in one day.
How has this experience changed you or continue to change you?
Well, it's given me an insight into people. And people, everybody needs something, and people all are the same. Some are more privileged or better off than others. And being from sort of a middle-class background and not having experience with a lot of low-income people, it's really opened my eyes to how much the same they are and how similar we all are in our feelings, and how their struggles are as real as my struggles, but very different. And it gives me a great appreciation for people whose struggles are more difficult than mine, and how they persevere as well as they do. It's very different working in somebody's home in a low-income neighborhood than driving through it. So you can drive through a neighborhood and say, oh, they could use this, or this should be done differently, and how could they not do something? But when you are working in their home and you hear how they cope with their daily lives and what they do, it's very heartwarming and humbling to understand what they are going through.
Well, we're out of time. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
And thank you for coming in. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you know someone who has overcome significant hardship and has an inspiring story to tell? Someone who has sacrificed or given over and above to the community and deserves some recognition? If so, please contact us with your nomination for next year's Local Hero Awards. To find out more about our local heroes and to watch interviews with all the winners, visit our website, midpenmedia.org. At the Mid-Peninsula Community Media Center, you can make your own videos and television programs and take classes in all aspects of media production. You can also hire our professional services team. To find out more about that, go to mcproservices.com. Congratulations to all our winners, and thank you for watching.